The year is 1943, on the frozen Eastern Front. Dmitry, a young Soviet soldier, shivers in a foxhole, wrapped in a damp wool blanket as the wind howls and temperatures plunge to -30. Every breath stings, the cold is relentless, seeping through every layer. His blanket, soaked from earlier snow, now feels like a burden, leaching away precious body heat. Survival here is a battle not just against bullets, but against the elements. Wool has been the soldier's companion for centuries, tough, familiar, and warm when dry. But in these brutal conditions, its limits are painfully clear. Across armies, German, British, American, the struggle is the same traditional gear pushed to its breaking point. The Second World War wasn't just a contest of tactics and firepower. It was also a race for better materials, a quiet revolution in labs and factories. The shift from wool to synthetic insulation would redefine survival in the harshest environments. For Dmitry and millions like him, that change couldn't come soon enough. The story of wartime insulation is a story of science, invention, and the will to endure. For centuries, wool was the backbone of military gear, uniforms, greatcoats, and most importantly, blankets. Its natural crimp trapped air, providing insulation, and it could absorb moisture without feeling wet. Wool retained some warmth even when damp, was flame-resistant and durable. But when exposed its flaws, when saturated, wool became heavy, up to 3 times its dry weight, and dried painfully slowly. In freezing conditions, a wet blanket could be deadly, draining heat from exhausted soldiers. Wool's bulk was another problem. Adequate warmth required multiple layers, adding weight and taking up precious space. As warfare became more mobile, these limitations became critical. Soldiers needed lighter, warmer, and more water-resistant materials. The age of wool was ending. The search for better insulation was underway. A new era of synthetics was about to begin. The breakthrough didn't come from tradition, but from chemistry. In 1937, Dr. Otto Bayer and his team in Germany developed polyurethanes, aiming for a synthetic rubber. By 1941, they had created flexible polyurethane foam, a material filled with millions of tiny air bubbles. This foam was lightweight, efficient at trapping heat, and inherently water-resistant. Unlike wool, foam's closed cell structure kept water out, maintaining insulation even when wet. The military quickly saw its potential, especially in aviation. The Luftwaffe used rigid foam to insulate aircraft, protecting crews from extreme cold. While infantry didn't get foam sleeping pads during the war, the promise was clear. Allied scientists raced to develop their own synthetic insulators. The war accelerated innovation, pushing new materials from lab to battlefield. Foam's arrival marked a turning point in survival gear. The future of insulation was synthetic. The quiet revolution had begun. Meanwhile, in the US, another revolution was underway, spinning glass into fine fibers. Owens, Illinois developed fiberglass in the 1930s, creating a fluffy, air-trapping material. Fiberglass was inorganic, fireproof, and didn't absorb water, making it ideal for insulation. The military used it extensively in ships and aircraft, where temperature extremes were deadly. Fiberglass lined warship hulls and bomber fuselages, protecting crews and equipment. It maintained insulation even when damp and dried quickly. While not issued to infantry, fiberglass played a vital, if invisible, role in the war effort. Its success in military applications paved the way for post-war civilian use. Fiberglass proved that innovation could come from the most unexpected materials. The stage was set for a new standard in insulation. Official gear was rarely enough. Soldiers improvised to survive. Newspaper stuffed in coats and boots became makeshift insulation, trapping air like wool or foam. Pine boughs, dry grass, and leaves lined foxholes, creating barriers against the frozen ground. Snow caves offered shelter from the wind, often warmer than the open air. Scavenged materials, packing, old tires, enemy blankets, became precious resources. Soldiers pooled blankets, shared body heat, and used ponchos to keep insulation dry. Fieldcraft and ingenuity were as vital as any issued equipment. The fight against cold was a daily test of resourcefulness. Survival depended on trapping air and staying dry by any means necessary. These lessons shaped both wartime and post-war gear. Comparing wool to synthetics reveals a stark difference. Insulation is measured by R value. Higher means better. Wool blankets, when dry, insulate well, but become heavy and lose effectiveness when wet. Foam and fiberglass offer higher R values for much less weight. A foam sleeping pad can weigh a quarter of a wool blanket and insulate better. Synthetics stay light and warm even in wet conditions. Wool becomes a liability. Fiberglass too retains most of its insulating power when damp and dries quickly. For soldiers, this meant less fatigue, more mobility, and better survival odds. The science was clear. Synthetics outperformed wool in every critical way. The battlefield proved it. Future gear would be built in the lab, not the pasture. The shift to synthetics was a revolution in comfort and safety. Soldiers' bitter experiences drove home the lesson. The test tube had won. After WWII, synthetic insulation transformed civilian life. Military innovations became camping and mountaineering essentials. Foam sleeping pads, lighter gear, and better jackets. Fiberglass, once used in warships and bombers, now lined homes, making them warmer and more efficient. Polyurethane foam found its way into furniture, cars, and coolers. Synthetic fiber fills led to the modern insulated puffer jacket, lighter, cheaper, and better in wet weather. The principles of lightweight, water-resistant insulation revolutionized outdoor recreation. Wartime research built a world of comfort and convenience. The legacy of these materials is everywhere. In our homes, our clothes, and our adventures. The quiet revolution of WWII insulation changed how we live with the cold. The story continues every time we seek warmth and shelter. From a damp foxhole to a high-tech sleeping bag, the story of insulation is one of ingenuity under pressure. WWII forced a leap from wool to synthetics, a fundamental change in how we fight the cold. The core principle remains survival depends on trapping still air. Today's advanced materials are the next step in this evolution. Military needs often drive civilian breakthroughs. Synthetic insulation is a classic example. The comfort we enjoy today is a legacy of wartime struggle and invention. Next time you pull on a warm jacket, remember the soldiers and scientists who made it possible. Sometimes the most important innovations are the ones that quietly keep us safe.